guys, welcome back to my channel. So my original plan was to have this particular jacket sewn into 2 segments, but of course when you start sewing, life gets in the way, kids get in the way, work gets in the way. So I've actually broke it up into several pieces. So you may see multiple videos with me in different outfits, and that's the reason why I'm just trying to get all the time to be able to sew everything. So in the last video, I sewed the darts together, and I also did stay stitching on the jacket. If you're trying to figure out what video is this, I am sewing the first jacket for the pattern in the golden rule package. It has like 280 patterns there, and I am enjoying making clothes from the golden rule, so I wanted to start at the beginning. I love this jacket. I did do some alterations to it, as you'll see. So the next part of this video will be me continuing that jacket, and we're going to start with the side seams. So according to what they have on the actual pattern, you'll be able to see that they have letters A, B, C, D on how you're actually supposed to sew the pattern together. I am sewing it how I've actually sewn jackets for a while, so I'm going whatever order makes sense to me. So right now I have my back piece, and I'm going to grab the right front piece. And I made notches to be able to help me know what needs to go with what. So I'm going to align my notches. Okay. And I like to pin everything because it makes, and probably makes me feel better. I've been sewing long enough where I don't have to pin thousands of pins, but I do want to make sure that everything is lined up correctly. This is not a slippery fabric. It's a sateen, and it's not going to slip when I sew, but I still want to make sure all my pieces are straight and lined up correctly. Okay. And if you ever see any like gaps and stuff, you want to just go ahead and line those up, because you don't want to have everything be out of alignment once you get to the end of your sewing seam. Okay, so I went ahead and pinned that, and then I'm also going to go ahead and pin my shoulder seam. Now it should be where your darts, the legs of your darts, line up at the shoulders. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sew all of this together. Move on the stuff. Oh my gosh, if I can pick this up. All right, so with this system, you kind of get to do what seam allowance you want to. So I am sticking with the standard seam allowance of 5/8 of an inch. Okay, do not forget to back stitch. And go ahead, like I said in the last video, go ahead and clip those threads. All right. So go ahead and do the other shoulder seam and side seam and take it to your arm and you press that, okay? So I went ahead and I sewed my side seams and also my shoulder seams. I've already taken it to the iron and I press my seams, okay? And then because this jacket is going to be unlined, I went ahead and serged my seams, okay? So now we're gonna set this aside. And the next thing we want to work on is our peplum piece, okay? So we have our front peplum piece, we have our pocket flap, and we have back peplum piece, okay? So there's going to be a couple things that we would do. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew our peplum back and front together, okay? So with right sides facing, I'm gonna line up my notches. And then I'm going to pin. Okay. So we're still doing the same thing. We're doing 5/8 of an inch for seam allowance. Back stitch. And back stitch again. Okay. So you want to go ahead and do that for both sides. When you are done, press your seams, and then if you are using a serger, go ahead and serge, okay? So now that I have sewn my side seams for my peplum, I grabbed my flap, my pocket flap. So remember, this jacket does not actually have pockets, but it does have a pocket flap. So if you want the pocket flap, put it in there. If you want to cut it out your design, you can. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to fold it lengthwise. When you look at the pattern, it has a line through it, okay? So that line is going to be where we're going to fold. So what we're going to do, we're going to line everything together. Make sure it's folded. So I'm going to sew 5/8 of an inch on the edge. Of each side. then I'm going to cut into this corner, because when I flip it, I want my corner to be nice and crisp. Okay. I'm also going to take off some of this bulk. So I didn't do that first. Sorry guys, I realized I was, all right. And then all right, so then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to flip it. And then one of the things I always wish I had but never bought one is one of the corners. So I always make sure I try to get my corners. And if you guys randomly hear voices in the background, that is kids in our house. I've tried to have conversation at recording, but sometimes it doesn't go over well, okay? So I flipped that. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm actually going to go over to my iron and I'm going to press this out. So I'm gonna press it really, really good. All right, once I get through pressing, I'm gonna come back and we'll attach this to our peplum, and then we'll get our peplum sewn onto the jacket, okay? Okay, so I came back from my iron and I have already turned my flap to the right side. I've sewn everything down. I gave it a good press, and then I also turned it down 1/4 of an inch, okay? So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna set both of my flaps aside, and I am going to pin, move my machine so I can large. I'm gonna pin my peplum to my jacket, okay? So there are markings on where my flat will go, okay? Let me move it over so you guys can see. There's markings there where my flat will go. So I want to make sure that those same markings are going to be on the right side because I'm going to want it to go right here on this seam, okay? This seam here. So I'm going to do that for both sides. And there's definitely different ways you can look up on how to do this. This is just how I've learned from different videos and the easiest way for me to actually do it. Okay. So it'll give me some indication on where I need to place it once I'm done with all of it. So that being said, I'm going to align my seams. Now, if one of the things I've learned is that a good way to make sure that your seams are aligned, I'm gonna stick a pin right there, is to take a piece of thread and base stitch this together. So If you have trouble aligning your side seams together, you can take a piece of thread and you want it a different color. So let me actually grab a needle and thread. I'm trying to see if I have one close. I don't see one. Let me grab it and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm actually gonna pin it a different way. All right, make sure my seam lines up. And I'm gonna pin it here because what I'm gonna do, they're lined up. I'm gonna take my needle and thread and I am going to base stitch this. Okay. And I do this sometimes for my skirts. To make sure like my yokes and waistbands are good to go. All right. Oh my gosh, my nails. It's time to get my nails done. I have just got back from vacation, so I haven't been able to do that yet. But, all right. So, I'm gonna have that as my, I don't know how good you guys can see it because of the color, but that's going to be right there. So, I did that one. And then I want to make sure that the other side seam also gets the same treatment. So you want to pin, because you want to make sure that when you do, the whole point of this is to make sure that your side seams or your seams are lining up. So pin, as they said, pin twice, so once. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing I did on that side. Okay, and usually before I'll check it just to make sure it's lined up, and then it is. Okay, so that is in, and then I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna pin. All right, I did also do notches on this, so I'm gonna make sure my notches are lined up. All right, got another notch here. And then have a notch on the end. Don't mind the noise that you guys hear in my house. I do not know what that is about. And I'm doing not a lot of pins, but I am pinning down because I don't want anything to shift. I had went back and did some adjustments to this pattern, just a little for fit purposes. So I want to make sure everything lines up, because after you put all that work into it, you definitely want to make sure that everything is where you need it. All right, and then I just need to do my middle. Okay. So I'm going to sew this 5/8 of an inch. A little closer so you guys can see. All right, so we got all that done. So now I am going to press it and do my serging, and then we'll be back.